everyone, and welcome to the Limitless Ladies in Leadership podcast. I am your host, Danielle, and I've created a space for the many powerful, creative, and limitless female leaders to share their stories. From female CEOs to professional athletes and doctors, every powerful woman has a story to tell. There's no guarantee where this podcast will take us, so welcome to the unfiltered, unedited, and badass space for all women to align. Let's get started. On the phone with me today is Jacque Tarlton. Jacque is the co-founder of Plant Chics, the community of women inspiring each other in their plant-based health journey. She's also a certified well coach and wellness advocate who is passionate about improving health through the fabulous, fun, and scientifically proven lifestyle changes. She earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Nutrition and Dietetics, and she practiced as a registered dietitian early in her career. She is also a complete health improvement program facilitator and corporate wellness trainer, specializing in the power of plants to improve health and longevity for her clients and ROI for corporations. Woo! Jacque, welcome to the show.
Danielle, I'm so happy to be here. I love your podcast. This is like seriously such a cool thing that you're doing. This is amazing. I love your introduction, and thank you for that great introduction of me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! Thank you. I know this has been such a fun journey for me, really learning about women, connecting with other women, raising each other up. It's been like, I am so happy I'm here.
It's so inspiring, right? Like I literally have goosebumps. I think what you're doing is incredible. Thank
you. And oh my gosh, going back to this lengthy intro, you have so many certifications and I can't wait to dive into these. But I want to back up a little bit because I know your journey hasn't always been surrounded by health, wellness, and abundance. Do you mind sharing some of the struggles that you went through that created Jacque?
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up in Kansas. And there was not a lot to do in Wichita, Kansas. So I literally started drinking at a very, very young age, like 12 or 13. I can't remember exactly. And Danielle, literally from like one of the first times I drank, I blacked out. So I was a blackout drinker pretty much from the beginning. There was a couple times that I drank that I do remember everything that was happening. But I was also always really into like playing outside, being active, and always like worked out and stuff because I cheered from the minute I could walk, basically. Well, fast forward, I'm in high school, and my senior year in high school, one of the cheerleaders and I were out in the car, we're drinking a beer or wine cooler, I can't even remember what it was, and a security guard walks up, we get busted. Danielle, I get kicked off the cheerleading squad, and this is like, the world has ended because my life revolves around cheerleading. You would think this would be like a good opportunity for me to like recheck where I am with alcohol. No, not at all. I kept on drinking, but this is also when I started getting into like working out and doing aerobics. This is in the late 80s. So I'm doing like step aerobics, Jane Fonda, like all these different things. And that's where my whole love of health and wellness started. Well, then I go to college. I cheer in college. I'm in a sorority. There's a lot of partying, but I never missed classes because I loved being around people and I had the FOMO. Like I didn't want to miss anything on campus. So I had so much fun. But I was going to a party and we were driving home and I was wasted, of course. And I'm driving, it's like cold. I'm shivering because I've got beer all over me because there was like it was just a crazy party. Shocking. But driving home and I'm driving with my knee on the steering wheel because I'm like shivering and I'm swerving, but because I'm driving with my knee, right? No, girls, because I'm wasted. So I get pulled over, I get a DUI. Again, you would think this would be something like, Jacque, let's look at this. And what I decided, what I learned from that is I can't drink and drive anymore. I can still drink, but I just can't drive after. So again, I'm still drinking, still having fun. Fast forward like many, many years. And I get it. So I'm actually in college, during college, let's go back to college first. In college, I get my degree in nutrition because I love like the power of nutrition. And always from that young age, I always knew that we could cure ourselves through lifestyle and use lifestyle as medicine. But that really wasn't a thing then. But the woman that trained me, the dietitian that trained me, she was actually vegan back then. plant-based was not a term. And she's the one that introduced me to Dean Ornish, T. Colin Campbell, Caldwell Esselstyn. These are all like the grandfathers of plant-based nutrition and plant-based medicine. So if any of your listeners are plant-based or they're looking into the plant-based or plant-based nutrition, they might recognize those names. So that always, like, nutrition and lifestyle and all of that was always a huge part of my life. And so I practiced as a registered dietitian for a couple of years, ended up getting out of that because I saw these reps coming in and out of the hospital all the time. I'm like, I could do that. They're in cute little dresses. They're bringing in like cupcakes and just talking to everyone. And then they get to leave the hospital. I'm like, sign me up. I want to do this. So I ended up getting into pharmaceutical sales and did that for like 20 plus years. Had an amazing time. I literally traveled around the world, wined and dined doctors, wined and dined myself, wined and dined like from the pharmaceutical companies to the physicians to everything. It was incredible. Had so many amazing experiences until I was so empty inside, Danielle. There was something in me. There was something missing. And remember, I always thought we could cure pretty much like 70, 80% of diseases through lifestyle. And here I am selling drugs, selling pharmaceuticals, selling therapies, diagnostics, surgical devices. And it wasn't in alignment with what my soul was. And I was just so empty and so miserable. And May 15th, 2012, I realized I needed to do something different. And I ended up going into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was scared shitless to do this. But literally the day I walked through the doors, like I felt this huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And immediately after the meeting, I ended up going up and like getting this newcomer welcome packet. And this woman who I was sitting next to in the meeting, she gave me her business card. I looked down at her card and she gave me her card and she's like, call me anytime if you need anything. I'm here for you. Text me, whatever. I looked down at her card and Danielle, she was a huge dermatologist. She presents at conferences, like dermatology conferences, literally across the world. And I'm like, holy shit. And I've actually seen her as a patient in her office, and she'd never given me her cell phone number as a patient. But now I'm in AA and she's given me her number, call me, reach out. So I texted her all this stuff. So she actually hooked me up with my first sponsor. But this was also a huge glimmer of hope for me because I was so scared. I'm still a rep at this time, and I have to wine and dine my doctors. Like I've got to drink with them and take them out to amazing restaurants and do all these things. I'm like, I can't do that sober. But she's a doctor that's getting wined and dined, and she literally travels around the world. I'm like, dude, if she can do this, then I definitely can do it. So it was like all these little glimmers of hope. So when I went into recovery, I don't even know what I thought I was thinking. I thought I was maybe going to learn how to drink like a normal person. I don't know what I was thinking. But what I didn't know is I was going to learn about myself. And that is when I realized that I'm in a job and an industry that doesn't resonate with my soul, because I really do believe that we can get rid of a lot of these cancers, heart disease, diabetes, obesity. Like we can get rid of a lot of these epidemics just by moving our bodies a little bit more and choosing what we put on the end of our fork and the way we think. Just very simple things. So a couple years into recovery, my husband finally, because I started getting my coaching certification, getting back into the dietetics and everything, and he saw that I was just on the struggle bus, and he's like, "You're miserable. Why don't you stop doing this? Stop doing pharmaceutical sales and then get into do more with your coaching practice." So I had actually trained for a fitness competition, and I know that you're training right now for a competition, so we can talk about that if you want to too. But I was training for a fitness competition, and the way I found my coach is I wanted to find someone who could train me 100% whole food plant-based. And I had interviewed several coaches, and one woman was like, "Oh, I can do this, but can you eat chicken and eggs every once in a while?" I'm like, "No, girl, that's not plant-based." Exactly. And I ended up finding one of my girlfriends sent me this beautiful fitness models Instagram, and I'm scrolling through her page. I'm like, she's hot. She's got all the accolades. She's been on all these fitness covers. She's all these fitness certifications. And then I stopped on one of her Instagram posts, and she has that E. Cornell plant-based nutrition certification, which in the plant-based world is really highly regarded. So I ended up reaching out to her, and she called me back immediately. And her name is Marzia Prince, and she literally is now my business partner.
Yeah.
So when my husband gave me the thumbs up to do this, I ended up calling her, and I had a business coach at the time, but I ended up calling her. She was my fitness coach. And she was like, well, Jackie, we literally have like the same vision about what we want to do in the world. Why don't we go into business together? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, what? I was so excited. So that was 3 years ago. So now Marzia and I were super excited with the company, and we're changing lives, and it's so freaking phenomenal. And it literally, I owe all of this to my recovery, because if I didn't ever go into recovery, I probably would have never been fully honest with myself. And now I get to be honest with myself and do what I'm so passionate about. And it's beautiful.
I have so many things to say. So many things came up when you were speaking. Number one, I didn't know you and Marzia only knew each other, or only went into business together 3 years ago. It seems like you guys have been best friends for like 20 years. That's amazing. The other thing that really came up for me was when you were talking about, having this foundation really early on with nutrition and health, but then also being an active alcoholic and drinking at the same time. I can relate to this so much when I was out and drinking and doing drugs and everything in my past, that there was still this level of like, I want to be fit. I'm going to eat pretty well for, someone who drinks late. But did you feel at any point that you were kind of living this double life?
100%. And there was a time I was training. This is when I lived in Atlanta. And my trainer, he's like, Jackie, you've got a banging body. You need to train. You need to do a competition. I've always wanted to do one. And then when we started looking into it a little bit more, and I couldn't drink alcohol. I couldn't do it. I couldn't quit the drinking long enough to just train and do something that I'd always wanted to do. I 100% felt like I was living a double life, because I would, during the week, I would be pretty good until the end, probably the last decade. I'm still drinking like a bottle of wine every damn night, but I would still work out. And there was a point, though, also when I was doing all the traveling, where working out wasn't as integral in my daily life as it used to be. And I think that's another reason I was kind of depressed. Mm-hmm. I dated this guy before my husband. He was a physician, and he actually was like, I think you're depressed, Jackie. I'm like, what? I was like, no, I'm not. I'm like the happiest person you'll ever meet. But alcohol is a depressant. So I've got a lot of depression in my family too. So I really do wonder if I had some depression going on while I was drinking.
Oh, absolutely. I know for me, when I was out there being crazy and living in LA and doing all the LA things and modeling and all this stuff, it's like, okay, Instagram wasn't around at the time, but on Facebook or MySpace even, I looked like my life was the shit. It was money everywhere, bottles of Dom Perignon, Mercedes, blah, blah, blah. But inside, I was dying, and I only wanted to show people the happy life because I was so confused with this double life I was living. So I completely understand what you're coming from.
Totally relate to that, because I felt the same damn thing. And I also felt the double life towards the last couple years that I was working in sales, because I had started my coaching business and I was doing that on the side, and everything I was posting was about my coaching and wellness. And then I'm out peddling medications or drug device technology, and it just wasn't resonating with what I was doing. And it just killed me.
Yeah. Yeah. So earlier, you had mentioned lifestyle as medicine. So I'd love for you to elaborate a little more on what that means.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting, because this is back in the early to mid to late 80s and early 90s that I always knew that we could change our health just by simple things that we're doing. But there were no studies on this or anything. Fast forward 30 years, there's actually now board certifications in lifestyle medicine for physicians, physician extenders like nurse practitioners and PAs, dietitians, coaches, nurses, everything. And what it is lifestyle medicine. There's 5 or 6 pillars, but it looks at exercise as medicine, food as medicine, and it does recommend a predominantly plant-based diet or a plant-forward diet. Meditation, the people that you're hanging around with, and no smoking. Like that's a no. Like just stop smoking if you're smoking. That's one thing that in Plant Chics, we don't even address smoking because it's like the known that is just like, it's just a known, I guess is what I should say. So yeah, and it's really, really powerful. So literally I have a client right now that I'm working with, a male. Most of our clients are females. Like with Plant Chics, we have our community of just women in our Plant Chics Tribe, but I do some one-on-one coaching. And one of my clients, he came to me because his calcium CT score is high, and that can be an early detection, or it can be an early indicator that the person may get heart disease. So he's like, I don't want this high score anymore. I'm finally ready. I want to get healthy. And he had done keto diets and he'd done all these things to lose weight. And he did want to lose weight. But one of the things, or a lot of the things that we're working on is like intuitive eating. And he's changed a lot of the foods that he's eating and the quantity of the foods that he's eating. He is not plant-based. He's eating more plants, but he's not plant-based. He's moving his body because he works from his desktop all the time. He was barely exercising. Now he's getting out and moving his body, getting out in the fresh air, riding the bike outside. We live in Miami. He's like right on the beach, on the boardwalk. It's gorgeous. So he's getting out and he's surrounding himself by a lot of amazing people, and he's creating really nice connections. And with those 3 things, it's like the perfect storm of changing some of the foods, like eating more foods closer to the natural state, exercising, using your body for movement because you feel good, and connecting with other people. He just had his labs done and he called me. His cholesterol is amazing. And he's about to be taken off his diabetic medication.
Wow.
It's really, really, really. Yes. And it's literally, this is a prime example of how lifestyle is medicine. He didn't do anything drastic. It's just those small, simple little changes that he made through our weekly connections that has made all of this possible. And it's incredible to see. And he was so excited. He was like jumping up and down telling me.
Yes, that's so amazing. I'm so happy for him and you. And this actually brings up what we had brought up earlier was the fitness competitions, because when I've always considered myself, well, even when I did drugs and alcohol, I looked fit, right? Like I've never been extremely overweight. I've always been athletic. I've always, either gone to the gym or played in sports or snowboarded or something. And so my weight's maybe fluctuated 20 pounds at most since I was a teenager. And I was thinking, now that I am preparing for a competition, for me, it's easy to maintain this. As long as I'm moving every day and eating, a pretty healthy lifestyle meal, I'm going to be okay. But when we're talking about competitions, we're talking about, okay, you are counting every calorie, every macro, you're exercising 2 hours a day sometimes, like it is intense. And then you get on the body fat thing and it's like, oh, you lost 1%. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm dying right now and I need to lose another 3%. Like, so I would love to hear about your competition prep and what all of that looked like.
That is, you know what? First of all, kudos to you for doing this competition, because I know that you've been wanting to do this also for a very long time, and you do have the physique for it and the determination. I think the biggest thing, it's all in the head. It's so, so powerful. And you guys are listening, Danielle and I are on video, and your chest looks amazing. I love your muscles in your chest, Danielle. You look so pretty.
Thank you.
And your Instagram is on fire, like all your like sexy poses with your just like checking in, literally from working out. Incredible.
Thank you.
So when I trained for my fitness competition, first of all, I thought it was going to be an easy thing because I was in pretty good shape. And I was talking to Marzia and I was like, well, how long do you think this is going to take? She's like, it'll take probably 9 months to a year. I'm like, this girl's smoking crack. I know she's hot. She's got all these accolades and she's got all the certifications, but she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Yes, girl.
Mm-hmm.
I actually trained for 11 months and I could have kept training. And this is one thing that you'll find too, Danielle, because hopefully you'll continue with the career. So you are going to go to, when is your competition?
So it's funny that you had brought that up about the timing, because I had selected a range, but I didn't select a competition yet because I knew it was going to take a minute. So my range was October to December of this year.
Awesome. So October, December. So you're going to be training all those months, right? And then you have to keep training and keep doing more shows. And literally, the more and more you train, the more shows that you do, the better your physique is going to look. So from the time I started training, which I had a decent, like if you would see me, you'd be like, oh yeah, she's got a good body, whatever. But from the time I trained to the time I went to the stage 11 months later, my body had a complete transformation. And I remember because I did a WBFF competition and we had to do the swimsuit and then an evening gown. And I went to have my evening gown altered. So I went in and she goes, and I was like, well, I'm on my last 2 weeks and I'm changing up my diet even more. So let's do another fitting before you give me the dress back. I went back, I kid you not, Danielle, in 1 week. And the seamstress was like, holy shit, what are you doing? Because she had to take off like inches all over the dress. She's like, I want to be on the diet you're on. I'm like, well, you kind of don't want to be because it's not very interesting. I was still eating a variety of foods because I did. I trained all plant-based, and it's going to be super interesting. And I can't wait to follow up with you after your competition. All the girls backstage, they were talking, they're like, I haven't shit for a week or for 2 days or whatever. I'm like, I pooped like 3 times already today. So when I did it plant-based, I was still getting to eat like a lot of the foods that most competitors don't get to eat. So my whole experience was so incredible. The workouts, I have to say, not a problem. Rarely did I miss a workout because working out, it just like makes me feel good. And it's like something I crave. But sticking close to that diet, like what you're talking about, that was hard for me. And I think when I had my dress altered, I think I stuck exactly to what Marzia had written out for me. And that's why I had such a huge transformation in just that small amount of time. So my biggest thing to you is keep with the workouts because I know you're slaying all those, but also the nutrition. Nutrition is so important. It's like 70, 80, 90%. I've heard so many different percentages, but it's a huge percentage. And that's also when I started realizing, like when I'm talking about it for chronic disease, like nutrition for chronic disease, that's when it like makes so much sense to me. So yeah, nutrition, stay dialed in. Stay dialed in.
Well, that's what's so crazy is like I said, you know, I've been pretty active, and since our gyms have reopened with COVID, I've been going almost every day. I do a hike once a week that's 7.5 miles, and you know, I've been doing some Peloton and like trying to like get everything in. And it's crazy because I hadn't shifted my diet at all. I was like, I'm just going to start working out more and kind of see what happens. And I eat pretty clean. I don't really eat anything processed, don't drink soda, rarely drink, like, you know, all of that kind of stuff is out. But I did one of the, what's it called? Staiku. It's where you stand up and it's a 360 degree measurement of like every part of your body. So it takes measurements of your arms and your chest and your waist and your legs and like different sections in there. And, you know, when I first saw my little 2D printout of my 3D body, I was kind of like, oh, like it was like, you know, a lot fluffier in areas. Now this was before I really started getting strict. And so my trainer is telling me that like, oh yeah, like, you know, within maybe 3 or 4 weeks, you should be able to lose at least an inch off of each one of your legs and your waist. And I'm like, okay, I know I hold a lot of fat in my legs, but like, I don't see that happening. Kid you not, 4 weeks later, I do the same little Staiku thing, 1.5 inches in each leg and 2 inches in my waist. And I was like, what? And I wasn't starving. Like I wasn't like hating life at that point. I know this is coming and I'm kind of experiencing it now, but I was just like, oh my God, like this, I don't know. It's really cool to see those tangible results.
It's way cool. That's one of the things that I love seeing as well, is seeing like how my body responds, not only to the exercise, but also the nutrition. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice this a little bit more like when you get closer to going on stage, because Marzia like took out a lot of things right prior to the competition But then like the day before, or maybe the day of the competition, she would add a couple things back in just to have a little bit of inflammation. And it was cool to see. Like I cannot wait to talk to you when you like around the competition time, and hopefully I can come out for it.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. It'd be so fun. In fact, I may even do it in Texas or another state anyway, just because the laws are a little stricter with the whole COVID regulations. So we'll see. But speaking of competitions, this segues really nicely into our next conversation. But I'm competitive. You're competitive. I think a lot of people are, but I think there's a place and a time for competition. And what I'm referring to is with other women. So I want to dive into more of like collaborating with women and not necessarily competing with them on every single level. So how would you, or I guess I'll just open up the floor for you here.
So I love this whole topic, collaboration over competition. Competition is great, like when you're going to the stage and doing that. And I have to say, even on the stage, backstage, all the girls were super, super nice in the WBFF, but not all of the organizations are like that. So that was even an incredible experience. But collaborating with other women. So I work in the plant-based space, and so I'll talk about that area. There is so much disease out there, and there are so few providers. Like literally, there are a lot now of plant-based influencers, but I don't look at any of these plant-based influencers as competition. I think it's great because the message is getting amplified, and it only makes things stronger. And one of the things that, like, even working with Marzia, working together, it was huge of her to ask if I wanted to go into business with her. I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Because it's so much easier doing things collaboratively, doing things together. And we've even seen our business scale up when we end up collaborating with other influencers in the plant-based space. We did a big collaboration with Dr. Will Bolskowitz for Fiber Fueled when he launched his book.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. Still getting referrals from that. So it's so powerful to work with other people instead of competing with them. And today there's a new plant-based bundle that is launching. And when Marzia and I've done a couple of these bundles before, and before we had done them, I'm like, oh, I don't want to give our $99 product to this bundle that's only $50 or whatever. But after learning more about how this collaboration works, it's so, so powerful because you are connecting with so many different powerful influencers, and you can actually sell more of your products than what you would do on your own. Yeah, you might be giving up some money, but in the long run, it's going to get your name out there, and it's also going to bring more revenue to you in the long run. So it was a really, really powerful message. And now even with this bundle that's going on, again, we're meeting so many new people. We get to share each other's work with one another and with the world, and then we get to make a lot of money. So collaboration, hands down, is way better. And I also learned a lot of that in recovery too. It's way better to work with each other. And you know what? If you find some people who might be competitive, it could be other women, it could be other men. You know what? First of all, look at yourself, what's happening, because oftentimes it's something that I'm giving out that I see reflected back at me, and that one always kills me. I'm like, damn it. So it's always an opportunity for me to level up. And then there are going to be some people that it's time to like tap out and move on to the next person. But find some people you can collaborate with, because there's so much room for collaboration and growth all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So I kind of want to get into the topic. Go ahead.
But before we do that, like what you're doing with this podcast too, with the Limitless Ladies leadership, like it's all about bringing each other together, and you're meeting so many powerful women. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny to me because you shared with me that you didn't always mesh well with women. And I, from the very first time I met you, I freaking loved you. And I just can't see you not getting, like you not bonding a lot with women, because I think you're spectacular. And I think you've got a lot to offer this world. And I think this podcast specifically is going to help. I think it's going to be a game changer.
Thank you. And I've, you and Marzia, we clicked, all three of us, we clicked instantly. So that was great. I think what comes up for me a lot around that space is like, there was definitely, especially back then, a lot of jealousy issues with people. There was a lot of competitiveness. Like I had to be better than any woman that I met in some way, shape, or form. Or I would feel intimidated, or there would be this level of like, I'd meet a girl that was like, oh, well, I want to go to the mall and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm like, can we go pick up some heavy shit outside? Like, it's like, I almost like looked down on the women that were quote unquote girlier because I didn't get it. Because I was taught as a young age that being girly was a weakness, that girls got hurt. And so I think I created this certain like wannabe tough woman attitude that was like, don't come near me, I'm way stronger than you, and when I started really diving into that and doing some work around it, it was like, okay, there's no shame in being strong, there's no shame in being a tomboy or whatever you want to like call yourself, but it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be because there's something wrong with being a female. What I get to create today is being a strong female. So it's been a really fun, like, self-exploration, and this podcast has really definitely helped with that because, there's some girly girls on here, and I get to love them up, too.
I cannot wait to hear all of the episodes, seriously.
Thank you. So another little transition, once again, talking about self-growth is boundaries. So I know that this has kind of been a struggle, as I mentioned, sometimes with women, sometimes with men, but it's like I have been hurt like most of us have, and I've created these boundaries, and sometimes those walls are so high that nobody can get in, and then I find myself being this lone wolf that's like, why don't I have any friends, and it's like, well, because you pushed them all away. So I would love to talk about what are some of your techniques of creating healthy boundaries with people where you can still have your own self-worth and your own self-esteem and establish that boundary, but not something so high that you shut the world out.
Listen, I'm still working on this, so I don't have all the answers here by any means. And I have to say, like at the beginning during the pandemic, I actually kind of liked when we had to stay home because then it like created boundaries for me. Yeah. Because I can get so sidetracked. I've got so many girlfriends. They're like, Jackie, let's grab a coffee. Jackie, let's do this. I'm like, okay. And then I get no work done. So one of the things that I've always done is I've always worked from home. Even when I was in medical sales, I worked from the house. And I would go out from there. I never went into an office. So for me, it's having boundaries when I literally, like my laptop is my work or my phone is my work. I can constantly be working. I'm married. My husband, we've been in therapy, and he's actually said, I think she likes her job more than she likes me because I'm constantly working. So I've got to create some healthy boundaries because it's not just me in the house. Like, sometimes I swear it'd be easier to be single because I could just work all the time or I could just do whatever I wanted. But I do have to think of my husband, and he's a pilot, so he's not home all the time. So those days that he's not home, I can work and I can do whatever I want. But on those days that he is home, I really do need to have like a hard stop. I need to put my phone down or like stop working at 7 p.m. or whatever that time is. And then I can spend it with him and we can do whatever. I can also like put times in my calendar when I can also get together with my girlfriends, because being an entrepreneur is not easy. And you know this, Danielle. It's like the day can fly by and you're like, where did my day go? I still have 25 things on my to-do list. We were just talking about this before the podcast.
I'll look at my calendar for the day and I'm like, okay, I have this and this and this, maybe like 5 or 6 things that I really have to get done at a certain time throughout the day. And then I think I'm like working really hard and I'm getting all this stuff done. And I look at the clock and it's 2 p.m. and I'm like, where did my day go?
It is hard. It is really hard to get yourself set up on a schedule. And Dr. Amy Shaw, she just released a book. I'm so effing tired. Have you read that book yet?
No.
It's really good. She'd also be another good person for your podcast. But she had posted on her Instagram about how women, there's so many ways that people think women have to be. By a certain age, you're supposed to have babies, you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have this job or not have this job, work, be a stay-at-home mom, be a CEO. Like, there's so many different things, and we need to throw that shit away, and we need to create boundaries. And this is where I wanted to go with the boundaries is what feels good for you. So what feels good for you, Danielle, with your work-life balance? And I hate that term, work-life balance, but what feels good for you in your personal life and in your work life might be very different than what works good for me or feels good to me. Does that mean one of ours is right and one of ours is wrong? No, both of ours is right for ourselves because it feels good for us and it works for us and our business and our families. So it's like a game, like it's kind of a dance is what it is. So you need to figure out what works in your life and roll with that. And there's going to be some days that you're amazing at work and maybe the home life is going to fail a little bit, but there's going to be some days when your relationship is on fire. If you've got kids, you're like being the great mom. I don't have kids, but like you're doing all these amazing things, but maybe work is going to go down a little bit. So whatever it is, it's a dance and you just got to keep dancing that good dance. And again, feeling what feels good for you and being in that flow and in that rhythm.
I love that. And that's and we were talking before we started recording this podcast that, one of the things that's come up for both me and you, that we both have a decent following on Instagram, and there tends to be a lot of these offers for collaborations. And I think in the past, it was really easy for me. A company would write and say, hey, we'll give you some free stuff in exchange for a post. And there was almost this level of obligation for me, like, oh, we're a small mom and pop business and, I'd love to support you and blah, blah, blah. And then, so I take this time to, create a recipe, write a recipe, take photos, edit photos, post on there, do a giveaway, by that time my day is gone and I didn't even profit off of this. And so I started realizing, okay, this is an area where it gets to be a healthy boundary for me that I can still support this business by maybe hey, we'll do a little share in the story or something, but I'm not going to spend this whole time creating this big production that literally takes up my entire day with no pay. So yeah, it's definitely, especially when you're running your own thing and making money that's not with another business, it's definitely important to create those boundaries.
Yes, and you bring up a very, very valid point. This is really strong with women entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs specifically, is knowing our self-worth. And Marcy and I have been very guilty of the same thing. Oh yeah, you're a small company. Oh my God, we love your product. Of course we'll do this for you. But all of that takes time. And your blueberries aren't going to pay my bills. So really, it's really important that we do know our self-worth and put those hard boundaries there. So that has been a growing process, but it's also fun. And it's also great when you do start getting those paid collaborations, and they do come, especially when you just say those nice boundaries or set those nice boundaries for yourself. It feels good for you, and it feels good when the money starts coming in.
Absolutely. So I want to transition again into a little bit more on the business side of things. So I am assuming that a lot of the people listening are either business owners or they're aspiring to be business owners. So what's some advice you have for those listening that are maybe in a little bit of fear of starting something or just kind of don't know what to do next?
Oh, this is a good question. So I was kind of in that situation. I was in a great job in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, making good money, and I really wanted to be a health coach. I wanted to do something different, but I was scared because the money, I was making really good money, and it's all centered around that self-worth, just like what you were talking about, what we were talking about. And literally you can start dabbling. Dabbling is a good idea. You can create a side hustle to see what it's like, see what kind of reception you're getting. But honestly, one of the things that we have to do is we have to clear space for things to happen in our life. And Danielle, you and I were talking about this last week. When you have some big, amazing goals that you want to do, but you're living your life the way you were, until you stop living the life the way you were, you cannot clear that space to open up your life to have all this amazing goodness come into your life. So it wasn't until I finally stopped working in the pharmaceutical industry and gave it my all, opened up my heart and soul for coaching, that's when more started coming to me, more abundance started coming to me. So it's been a very long road, though. It's a lot of work.
Well, and I love that you shared that, because I think that there's also this certain stigma around like, well, if you don't start your business when you're 22, like you're never going to make it. And you and I are both good examples of being over 22, you know?
We are. And that's another thing. It's so true. Like that's another stigma that we've got to get rid of, because just because we're not 22, I'm in my 50s now. And literally, it's never too late. It's never too late to get healthy. It's never too late to start that business. It's never too late to move if you want to move. It's never too late to change careers. If that is what's like really coming up inside of you. And one of the things I do recommend is having some quiet time with yourself. Like a lot of people are a little bit scared of meditation, but literally taking, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, just sitting in quiet and just listening to what comes up in your mind, and really let's start listening to some of these things. And that's where you can find your passions, because I've had a lot of people come to me. They're like, Jackie, I want to do something. I don't know what it is. I'm like, well, what are you passionate about? And they're like, I don't know. But this is when it's important to just get quiet and start asking yourselves, what do I like to do? And me, I love being outdoors. I love being active. I love eating delicious food. I like it when it's healthier. I also like some good, we call it soul food. We call it whole food and soul food. I love my whole food. I love my soul food too. But I love traveling. I love all these things. So we literally have a business that's around this. And I can't wait for all of this to lift, because I can't wait to start traveling and going to conferences and events and getting together with people on retreats and doing all these things again. It's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, same. And what kind of came up for me too, that's also helped me in this journey, because I was literally like 5 months ago-ish. Yeah, it was around December. My Instagram had gotten blocked. I went through all this stuff and was like, okay, well, I'm going to let that go for now. We'll figure it out later. But like, I'm making this decision in my head that I'm going to leave my job. But then I didn't have a plan. And I was just kind of like, sitting here, and I remember somebody was coaching me through like, okay, so what do you like to do? I'm like, I don't know. I like fitness. Podcasts are cool. I've done that for 5 years. Like, what? I don't know, and I'm just kind of like getting frustrated with myself because there's all this anxiety that I can't come up with the right answer. And my coach in this program was like, okay, just start writing. I'm like, write what? And they're like, just get out a piece of paper and start writing all the things, even if it makes no sense. Just start layering all these words on paper. I don't care if it's a sentence, and just write things that make you happy. And I think I had 10 minutes to do the exercise. And within that 10 minutes, I had a full page of like, fitness, health, eating right, competitions, women, blah, 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 blah. And that turned into, well, what can we create with these things? Like, let's circle some of your top ones out of this. Okay, what can we create? And that was like the easiest, but one of the biggest eye-opening experiences for me. That was like, it was all in here. I already knew. I just didn't know how to express it.
It's so, so powerful. And that's where the miracle of like journaling or talking to other people comes in. So it's so important, because we can like think about all these things in our mind, but if we don't put it down on paper, if we don't connect with someone and share these with someone else, there is going to be so much lost potential. Mm-hmm. So get out there, talk to your friends, journal, write shit down. And exactly what you did, Danielle, I think that is brilliant. And I also do think it's good to hire a coach.
Yeah, me too.
A fitness coach, a life coach, whatever it is, if you're looking for health, a health coach, like any of those things, because that person has ways to get you to think differently, and it's going to be super powerful and help you succeed.
Yeah, and that's honestly been one of the biggest changes for me. Like, I was always that person that's like shit ton of potential, not doing shit. There was like, okay, there's a whole bunch that I have to offer, but I didn't know how to translate that. And I had insecurities and I had all these things. But then hiring a coach to walk me through that, like, it sounds so silly. And I just had this ego that I didn't need anybody else. Like, there we go back to the lone wolf, right? But once I eventually surrendered and was like, okay, we're going to do this thing and I'm going to follow your direction, even if I think it's dumb. And because I'm paying you too. So like, I'm going to get the most out of this. So yeah, thank you for that.
Well, you bring up so many good things. So many people feel the same way about getting a coach. They're very successful executives, whatever. But look at this. First of all, a lot of executives do have business coaches. And look at athletes. Athletes have multiple coaches. They've got the coach for the sport, for the working out, for the nutrition, for their mindset, like literally so many different coaches. And another thing you said that is really powerful is that you are paying them. And this is and I want you guys to listen very carefully. When you are giving stuff away for free, people don't take heart in it as much. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, it's free, whatever, I don't have to do it. But when you get someone to pay, even if it's $5, whatever, once you get someone to pay for whatever it is you're offering, they're going to listen more. And it's so crucial. We should not, as women, give information away for free. We have a lot of valuable information. We need to have people pay us so that they'll pay more attention, they'll take more note of it, and they'll start taking action. Exactly what you did. Look, you're creating a whole new career for yourself because of what you've been through.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you. And speaking of businesses, so let's dive into Plant Chics for a little bit. I'd love to know what you offer as coaches and as Plant Chics.
Oh my gosh, Danielle, this is what I love talking about. So Plant Chics, we empower women to get off bad diets and on a sustainable lifestyle. We have plant-based nutrition and fitness programs. They're all available virtually on our website, plantchics.com. And Plant Chics is plantchics.com. And we have everything from like a 7-day starter kit. So people that are like, what is this plant-based? I want to learn a little bit more about that. So they'll learn about plant-based nutrition. All the common questions are asked and answered. We've got like frequently asked questions. We have documentaries and books that we recommend that you read so you can further your education and knowledge. There's workouts and tons of recipes, lots of pretty pictures. Then we have our 30-day challenge. And fitness-wise, this has HIIT, which is high-impact interval training. It's got yoga, active living, because we're huge proponents on active living. The 7-day starter kit also has HIIT. It's all HIIT and active living, because we want you guys to get outside. Getting outside, getting that fresh air. There's something about the fresh air that just does your body good. But also in our 30-day challenge, we have goal call, which every Monday you write down your goals and post them in our tribe. And writing down your goals is really, really powerful, because once you put it on paper, just like what you did, like writing out all your loves and interests, you're able to create a whole new life for yourself. And it's the same thing when you write down your goals every week and you look at them day in and day out, then you're more likely to attain all those different things. We've got all new recipes and pictures and everything in there too. And we have our newest program, which is Let's Get Lit, which is low impact interval training. This is more for people who are just starting to work out, or they have any kind of joint issues like knees, back, hips. They don't like jumping. This is me. I'm just kind of over jumping. So people that are pregnant, postpartum, we've got exercises, and there's 30 different workouts in 4 weeks and over 100 recipes. This is our flagship program. It's amazing. And everything, they're all videos. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And one of the things that comes with all of our programs is our amazing community, our Plant Chics Tribe. This is just for the women. It's on Facebook. And if you're listening to this, you don't have to buy one of our programs to come into the tribe. And our Plant Chics Tribe is pretty incredible. So we have 3 different types of Plant Chics. We've got the Plant Curious, we've got the part-time Plant Chics, and we've got the plant-based pros. And our Plant Curious peeps, these women just want to be healthier. And they're not really sure if they want to be plant-based, but they are a little bit curious. They've heard about this plant-based movement, so they want to know more. So they're just kind of dabbling their toes into plant-based nutrition, but they have this incredible community of women who are lifting them up. We have women posting in there, not just about fitness and nutrition, but also posting like, I have to go to the doctor today. I had a cancer scare. I'm going through breast cancer. So they're posting like real life stuff. It's not just fitness and nutrition. It's just an amazing community of women. So if you're looking for a community of incredibly collaborative women, then come request to join our Plant Chics Tribe. We'd love to have you. And then our part-time Plant Chicks, these girls, they can be plant-based most of the time, some of the time, part of the time. But maybe they'll go out and have vegan meals more often than not, or maybe they'll have fish or dairy or whatever the case may be. But they are eating plant-based every once in a while. You're welcome to. And then our plant-based pros, and this is the reason Marzia and I created the tribe, because our husbands are not plant-based. And it can be hard sometimes when your husband's not fully on board. But it's an area where we can all come together and like share different recipes and just share things that are working in our homes when our husbands or the kids or spouses, partners, when they're not fully on board with plant-based. So it's an incredible community for women with any kind of dietary preference. And it's just an incredible community where we lift one another up and support each other on this plant-based journey.
I love it. And speaking of, once again, lifting other women up, not necessarily competing unless it's a healthy competition. And I love how you're speaking about posting goals too, because what comes up for me is accountability. When if I have a spreadsheet of all my goals to get done for the week, for the month, for the year, whatever, and I'm the only one looking at it, it's really easy to be like, I don't know if I want to record that podcast with Jacque today, or these kind of things come up. But if I'm sharing that document with a friend or multiple friends, which is what I'm doing right now, people call me and say, Danielle, weren't you supposed to have your body fat tested yesterday? Danielle, weren't you supposed to post your calories? I'm like,
It's accountability. We need accountability. We totally need accountability. And we actually do a live goal call Monday every Monday in the tribe. And it's super, super powerful. And it is like, it helps take you to the next level.
Okay, so that's your Facebook group, right? And then plantchics.com, I know that has like tons of information about what you guys are doing and about you guys personally, and that's CHICS. You're also, it was Jacque Tarlton on Instagram, if I remember right?
At Fabulous Jacque.
Fabulous Jacque, that's right. We will put that in the description as well. Were there any other resources or links you wanted to share today?
Yes. And Danielle, this is one that you should actually do now that you're on an iPhone. But Paceline. This is fun. So maybe a lot of you who are listening, you work at a corporation and you have a corporate wellness plan and you get all those rewards. But what happens when you leave the company, you lose all those rewards? Or maybe some of you, like me, back in the day, when I was traveling all the time, I would use one credit card and I'd get all these miles on my credit card and I would only stay at Hilton. And then my husband was like, Jacque, start staying at Marriott's because they've got they've got better hotels in Europe. And we ended up staying, flying first class to Prague and Budapest, staying in the Ritz, all on miles, which is amazing. So Paceline, it's paceline.fit. They're only available on iPhones right now, but it's a free app and it rewards you for working out, which is pretty cool. So the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that we have 150 minutes of exercise every week. Paceline, if you work out 150 minutes in 1 week, you get a reward. I'm on week 6 and I love it. It's so much fun. And that's a brand I can get behind because they're rewarding you for working out. So definitely have a link for Paceline. And that's maybe even a company you'll want to talk to, Danielle, seriously.
Okay.
Paceline.fit.
Got it. Thank you for that. I hadn't heard of it.
Yes, and we'll have a link also. We're just starting. If you guys want to talk with Marzia and I, you can text us and we will reply to you. We'll send you an audio message. We can send you video messages, but it's literally us rapping with you back and forth, and you can ask us questions. about nutrition, about plant-based nutrition, about exercise, about fasting, because we do this thing called prolonged fasting mimicking diet. And I know you've done that, Danielle. So you can ask us all kinds of questions. Marzia, my business partner, was a big fitness model, so she has a huge fan base. So you can ask Marzia a question. You can ask me a question. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll have the link to be able to text with us as well.
Awesome. Cool. And I will put those all in the description of the podcast today. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we go?
I cannot think of anything. Danielle, I think what you're doing is amazing. And I'm so glad that you are bringing women to the center. And I hope your podcast goes viral. I hope you have bazillions of downloads, seriously, because you're sharing some really powerful women in your podcast. And I can't wait to listen to every single episode. So I can't thank you enough for having me.
Aww.
And I look forward to coming back another time too.
Well, thank you. Without all these powerful women to interview, I would have no podcast. So thank you for your part in this as well. For everybody's that's listening, thank you again for tuning in. If you would like to support the podcast and keep episodes going, go follow Limitless Ladies in Leadership on Patreon. It's also the same name for Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all your places that you can download and listen podcasts. And thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.